Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga Texas construction update video.
Well, it's the start of another week here at Giga Texas, the 26th of June, 2023. And it's also the last week of the second quarter. So I know a lot of people are interested on whether or not Tesla's going to break yet another record. And from what I see at Giga Texas, they're trying to do their best to help get that record. So a lot of activity today. Three things I do want to talk about briefly. First, on the south side, as you can see by these images, 5 of the width wall panels and from the ground all the way to the roof have been removed now over at Stamping 2. So we got a good chance today to see a lot of what is going on inside there. And I think you'll enjoy those views because we don't really get a chance to see all that. There's also nearby there a lot more contractor vehicles. So it looks like we might start seeing more work maybe on that graded area just to the south of where they have all of those wall panels removed. Next, over at the west main entrance, they are now putting down plywood sheeting over that concrete underneath those steel architectural beams. And I also saw a delivery truck bringing some of that stainless steel cladding that is going to be put around those beams. So I think we're about to see that work underway, and I can't wait to see what it looks like with all the stainless steel. And then lastly, up at the Megapack site, big development today. The first of the transformers for the groupings of the Megapacks has been delivered, and they're getting ready to hoist that up and put it onto one of the concrete pads that they've already put in place. They continue to put more of the concrete pads as well, and on the north end they are also continuing with that steel assembly for the connections on that end of the Megapack side as well. So it's great to see yet more progress, and hopefully we'll see the rest of the transformers delivered soon, and then maybe we'll start seeing the Megapacks. Otherwise, a lot of things else to see today in the video. Great things to talk about as well, and I think you'll enjoy the whole video. So again, thank you very much for your support. I do very much appreciate it, and it makes everything that I do possible. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a great week. Take care.
A special thank you to all of my outstanding Patreons for your continued encouragement and support. Patreon members get access to hundreds of high-resolution photos, previews of the future material, and direct dialogue with me. If you would like to support my channel, please consider becoming a patron using this link, which is also in the video description. Please also consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga Texas. Good morning here at Giga Texas on the south end, taking a look at how the south end of the building looks with now 5 rows of the wall panels removed from the ground level all the way up to the roof. And as you can tell, it's a lot of change, and we'll get a chance to look inside there to see what equipment and other activities are going on inside there. But for the moment, we'll stop on the southeast side and take a look at this intersection. You can see that small excavator. It looks like the trench in the middle has been completed. Now they're doing some trenching around the perimeter of that intersection and following along the road up towards the north. So it possibly could be some additional conduit that is going to be installed here. As we fly over the tree belt, what I'm looking at here is to see if there's any signs of progress or start of any type of construction for the multi-story parking garage that will be built in this general location. I don't really see that right now. However, that new clearing that has all of the gravel right in the middle of the screen looks like they're starting to put some equipment, some vehicles, and some trailers there, and also a large light post. So maybe that'll be where they have the materials for the multi-stage or multi-level parking garage. Here on the east side at the south end of Body in White and also near the stamping machine structure, a lot of activity, many trucks, deliveries. There is one thing I want to point out next to this red truck in the middle. You can see those kind of aluminum wrapped items. Those are more robotic assemblers, and they continue to be delivered here, moved up to the second floor of Body in White where all those windows are, and they continue to stockpile more and more of those robots, which are pretty interesting to see. We can also tell that more of these white painted items, looks like some scaffolding and some other white covered items have been delivered here next to the east side of the stamping machine structure. Now, one of the things I did notice as we go over the roof section is, in addition to all the wall panels that have been removed, you can see the remnants of the columns sticking up through and the beams where the roof decking used to be along this entire section. We can also tell that there are some crews at work nearby, kind of in this corner section of the solar panels. What they're doing is they are cutting rectangular holes through the weatherproof membrane and the insulation down to the roof decking, and then they're going to cut that out, and then next to it you can see those kind of steel frames. Those are bases for new vents, and then the vent enclosures are on the roof over on the southwest side near the temporary loading platform. And they've been adding several of these vents in this south side of the roof for the last several weeks. So it may be related, I'm not sure, to the wall panel removal. But here's a good view of how this looks at a closer vantage point with all the wall panels removed. On the ground, we see a lot of excavation work in and around near where the footings have been installed. Also, the kind of the plastic that you see kind of hanging down in the middle that used to divide these two sections when the wall panels were up, obviously no longer needed right now. And as we look inside, I'll bring the drone down a little lower for a little bit better view and also try to take advantage of the sunlight. You can see that the bay on the left is mostly for equipment and some materials. The bay on the right is where we've seen in the distance that AIDA large stamping press. It looks like a large white building. And then we see another press of some sorts being finalized for its assembly in the middle section. And also it looks like on the left-hand side there's another foundation being prepared. You can see kind of those dot-like structures with the concrete. That is possibly for yet another large item. And then we can see some formwork and some rebar sticking up out of the ground slab right next to where the steel columns are at the what used to be the end of the building. And also this is a good vantage point of all the new footings that have been installed on this section of the factory. So it's very interesting to see how they're approaching this building extension and where they have decided to start. But it'll be something to continue to monitor as this develops. As I turn back towards the south, we're really close to these cranes that are part of the continuous flight auger pile drilling system. The one crane has been lowered slightly, but otherwise I haven't seen much change here in the last couple of weeks. So hopefully we'll see those back into action. On the south side of the cyber pond is a good view of the materials. On the left-hand side, there's actually a lot less of the steel materials now than there have been in the past couple weeks. So some of that's being moved inside as they do construction. We can also see how the River Road extension looks right now. Some sections have had asphalt installed, but they haven't really progressed in the last week from what they've already put inside. So it's something I'll continue to monitor to see how that road extension and the progression over to the east continues to develop. Here is a good view of the south side graded area. We see these trailers and the trucks. Looks like they're bringing some more items, and that crane-like item, I think these are just parts for an overall crane. And it may be related to, or maybe that crane that was used to remove some of the wall panels. Also, next to this trailer, you see some more of the rebar, all the circular or cylindrical cages for that CFA auger piles. And as I mentioned before, that indicates we'll see much more of that drilling soon. Also, as it's moving off to the right side of the screen, there were a lot of contractor vehicles parked out here today, which I think is a great sign that we're going to see resumed and expanded construction on this south end. No real changes on this southwest corner where all of the white pipes are sticking up out of the trenches that have been filled in. And as we proceed over towards the temporary platform, you can see that there's some new items that have been delivered. There's a truck that's bringing some steel manifolds and pipes. You can also see it looks like a box being picked up by that forklift, and also 2 items being lifted up by the crane onto the platform. Not sure exactly what these are, but when I used to fly, those look like what we would call fire bottles. So I don't know if it's some sort of fire retardant system or some other production item. Speaking of materials and production items, on the left-hand side, this material staging is filling back up again with more materials and some equipment. And much of this is being moved inside this opening with the large ramp. And you can see some items, it looks like some racks are being brought out from that part of the building. Also, some special deliveries on the accordion truck on the left, and also more steel parts right in the middle getting moved inside. So continues to see a lot of progress going on inside there where they're expanding the production lines for General Assembly Lines 2 and 3. Now here's an interesting development. This truck and trailer that you see right in the middle of the screen, and I'll try to do a zoom in, but what I think this is this is the stainless steel cladding that will be installed on the beams and columns in front of the west main entrance and making that kind of architectural tunnel-like device. Now I've been expecting to see this cladding arrive soon, and it will complete the overall look. So it looks like that is now underway. You can also tell that there's a lot of plywood put down on this concrete entrance and also protecting that trapezoidal section. This is so that they can get in and use the man lifts to put that stainless steel cladding on. You can also tell that one beam closest to the doors has got that railing mount on top, and that is part of the mounting brackets for that cladding. So soon we should see that entire steel structure have stainless steel cladding on all of it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what that will look like when it's complete. The end of line here is not too busy right now at the point that I was making this video, and only one Model Y with those tents. And that Cybertruck graffiti trailer remains. Now we've crossed the highway, so we'll resume the video and the discussion here on this side. A lot of changes and a lot of earthwork continues. Much of the materials have now been placed on that new material staging yard off to the left and top of the screen. And coming in from the right to the center, we can tell that the amount of earthwork just continues across this entire width of this section. And the center here, where you can see where the telephone poles are, or the power poles, much of that vegetation has now been removed, and they are in the process of flattening out this entire grade. And in the middle and top of the screen along the housing section is what I believe is going to be somewhere in this area, the road that is going to connect all the way up to Tesla Road behind the drone on the north end. But this is a good view of some of the earthwork that is going on, how this side is being transformed, how the entire section looks with that new material staging location at the top center of the screen, the old one with the warehouse on wheels on the left of the screen, and then how it is continuing to progress here towards the north. And as I continue to pull away to the north, this is another material staging yard. This is with the 2 white tents. We also see some of the landscaping vegetation still here, but some of it has been moved around the various site. And then this section that we're seeing right in the middle is the road that's going to continue to the north and then connect to Tesla Road. This material staging location with all the steel and concrete parts continues to be active. The workshop that's modifying some of the steel is active as well. And then much of this is continuing to be moved into the factory as construction continues. What I'm trying to show you here is how the widening and work for the Tesla Road expansion is continuing. Also, lots of those steel corrugated pipes and trenching so that they're doing some of the stormwater management along the south side of what will be this 2-lane or actually 4-lane, 2 lanes, one going to the west, one going to the east for Tesla Road. And you can also see the trench work with that pipe continuing here along this greenbelt section as well. So this is a good view of how Giga Texas looks from the north. Let's cross back over the highway, and I want to show you what's going on now at the Megapack site, because there's a lot of very interesting developments that are going on. First, you can tell that all of the gravel in the center rectangular section has been applied. More of those concrete pads have been applied as well. More grade work on both the right and left-hand side of the screen. You can tell where it looks like they are expanding that grade work, kind of almost like a road or maybe a parking lot on the left-hand side. And then here the crews are continuing to install the vertical steel parts, the cable tray trenches, and some of the connections that'll be necessary for the electrical wires on this side of the site. Now, as I bring the drone down even lower here, this is another milestone. The first of the transformers has been delivered. I believe that these are going to be mounted on each of these concrete pads that you see. And then in the middle where the gravel is where the actual Megapacks will be installed as well. And again, there's going to be groups of either 8 or 10 of the Megapacks for a total of 68 of them. As I maneuver around the crane, this gives you another vantage point of this transformer that's been delivered on this truck. And it looks like they are getting ready to lift it up and then place it on one of those concrete pads. But this is also just a good view of how the overall site is continuing to develop. And then here where the trailers are and the material staging yard, how it looks today. On the left-hand side of the screen, more of those concrete pads that are waiting for installation. As we continue to fly up over the power lines, I'll bring the drone back down. On the upper left-hand side, you can see another one of those excavations under the power lines for some of the stormwater pipe. And then here we see the crews working to install more of the electrical conduit with these 2 connecting concrete vaults. The conduit on the bottom left is going to the south, and then we can see the new trenches here going to the north, just parallel to the temporary electrical switch yard. And I think eventually it's going to connect into this large underground vault that is under construction. And what we see here is that the first section of the walls has been poured. The crews are in the process of removing the forms here. Then they will move those forms down to the next section of the rebar wall and prepare that for the concrete to be poured. And that'll just continue until all of the walls are completed, and then the basic structure of this vault will be completed as well. That temporary retaining wall then, I believe, will be removed once all the permanent walls are completed. This is also a good overall view of how this south end of the permanent electrical switch yard appears today and the progress that is being made. So let's get ready to fly across the site, and we'll pick up the narration over at the battery cathode and die shop complex of structures. As always, this section of the site has got a lot of activity. There's multiple structures, and each one is showing a lot of changes. We'll start here at the north end of the battery cathode plant. The 3rd floor windows on the east, north, and the west side are almost completely installed now. And as I wrap around the building, this will give you a good view of how they look here. There's just some corner panes of glass on either side that haven't been installed, but the rest looks like it's just about completed. As we continue to fly around this north end of the structure, this gives you a good view of the east side and all of the changes that are going on, some of the new construction, and also some of the reconfiguration of this small structure on the left. This is the cell test lab. They've been doing some work on the roof and also some of that room underneath that open section, and it looks like they are getting closer to the point where they'll be able to install or reinstall that roof decking. As I continue to fly on this east side, a couple of new things. We see some excavation work going on here right next to this water detention pond and the berm that they've been rebuilding along this side. Also see some gravel mix in this middle section. It looks like that large excavation on this side has been filled back in. And then now we see this new structure, and the perimeter grade with the wall sections on the left is really starting to show up, and it looks like they are putting more of the formwork here so that they can continue with the rebar installation on these trenches to do the outline of the building. That yellow material is a membrane called moisture barrier, and they'll put that in to protect the rebar and the concrete as that construction process continues. And this is a good view of just the number of walls and the height of these walls that have been installed. Take a look at the workers as a sense of scale. And you can tell that each of these walls is probably about 3 meters tall. Also some work on the left-hand side in the underground vault. I'm going to take this opportunity to give you a view inside this open section. And it looks like the large platforms are still getting fitted out. More materials on the ground floor. Those 4 large tanks or mixer units on the left still have not been moved or installed, so I'm still monitoring that. I'll pull away and try to give you a good view from this vantage point of how the entire east side looks and that new construction that is underway. Another thing I want to show you that is new is this yellow crane is now laying on the ground, and there's a crane nearby. So I think that this has now fulfilled its purpose, and they may start disassembling this crane to move it to another part of the site, or maybe it's no longer needed here at Giga Texas. So that's another thing I'll be continuing to monitor. There's some more trenching down the middle on the south end of this alleyway. We also see this truck delivering with Suncoast. Very interesting. I'm not sure exactly what they're delivering. The new ground slab with the formwork is still waiting for concrete. And as I fly up over the vaporizer system, and because of the angle of the sun, I'm going to turn the drone to the right and also look down and give you some good vantage points of this chiller unit, specifically on the roof section here where it has that graded material for the, I guess the floor on this side, and also the pumps, the pipes, and a lot more of the work that is going on. It also looks like there's some new tanks in the red, kind of in the middle of the screen that have been installed as well. And just a lot of work continues with all of the manifolds on this part of the structure. Now on the north side, this large rectangular opening, I still haven't seen much as far as equipment being installed here, but there are crews working on the north side of the Evapco fan units, which is very interesting as well. And overall, this is just a good view of how that structure looks today. Now I'm going to pull away just to show you the trench work that is going on here in that middle section. It runs down the entire alleyway, and it will run up to the north where there's a new lift station that will be installed just to the north of that area. Here at the die shop, this concrete apron with the gantry crane rail system. Looks like there's more rebar yet to be installed before we'll see concrete. So I'll continue to monitor that and see when we get the concrete pours. As we fly back over to the south, I'm going to give you a good view of this new clearing location. A lot of work continues to get this grade completed, and I think that'll extend this graveled material storage to that location. Also a lot of work by that old house area, and we'll probably see that grade work continue there shortly. I'm going to give you a good view of this material storage just so you can get an appreciation for all the equipment and the items, some wrapped in green, some in plastic, and that TKS paint system off to the left where they're moving some of those into the factory, I think to support Cybertruck production. The old house is still here, but many of the trees have been relocated. It looks like more work to relocate some more trees may be underway. These two trees used to be by the house. They've both been moved to this location, and that black tank, I think, is water to help provide water for these trees to make sure that they are established in their new locations. And this is a good overall view of the east parking lot with the main factory, and give you a sense of just how busy it is and how many employee vehicles are on site now. As a reminder, on the west side of the highway, there's a new contractor parking lot. So all of what you're seeing here predominantly are Tesla employee vehicles now. As we fly over this part of the East Warehouse on Wheels, I wanted to give you just a good view of the new car staging and transportation lot, mostly because this is the last week of the quarter, and I wanted to show you just how busy it is here. The trucks are arriving, picking up vehicles, and departing off-site 24 hours a day. And I don't know what the production rate is, but I think it's pretty high, and I know they're pushing for that to end of the quarter. Now, near this section with the wind tunnels, I noticed these vehicles being washed. As I started to pull away, I decided to come back and look at them. I think what we are seeing is these are the vehicles. It's a Model S, a Model X, and another one of the vehicles painted that were used at the shareholders meeting, and also some various other events. And I think they're just getting them washed up, maybe for another event coming up. This new car testing and calibration lot plus supercharging is, as always, very busy as well. And then here near the east main entrance, that glassed-in section, this gives you a good idea of a lot of the rack mounts and the castings. Along this side, those new receiving doors with those green load levelers, this section that still hasn't had the concrete put back in, and where they're working on the receiver doors. And finally, this new section that's having the concrete removed. Now, I think what they're doing is this is to finish the conduit installation, and it will run through that section where the concrete's being removed, and eventually will connect up under the perimeter grade beam of the building at some point there. And this will complete the electrical conduit, and you can see the concrete vaults here along this widened berm and the work with the conduit. I think this is all related, so that's why they're removing that concrete in that one section. So as we fly up over the power lines here, this gives you a good view of what is going on here. Also, those three receiving doors on the left, you can see some more of that formwork. That's where inside I was able to show you in my previous video where they're doing more of the foundations, possibly for 2 more gigapresses in that location. Here's a good view also of the conduit that's extending over to this main junction area with these 2 concrete vaults. And this is a good close-in view of the work that is going on here. Pretty much all of the conduit has been run through this section. Some of it's going into the building underneath this wall, and then the rest is going along that widened berm as we talked about earlier. But overall, this is a really great sign to see that the electrical conduit is getting close to the point where they'll be able to start running the electrical wires through here and then connect up to the electrical switch yard. These trailers are new. I haven't mentioned them in the past couple of videos, but the fact that they are there indicates that perhaps we'll see more contracted work on this side of the building soon. But it's something I'll monitor here. As we pass the plastics manufacturing section next to these trailers, we also see some more of those possibly molds for some of the bumpers. And then the last thing I want to show you as we wrap around this side of the building is not only is the plastic on the windows and the tarps on the ground, but the white stain application is well underway and has finished about not quite half of this section of the building. But at the rate that they're going, it wouldn't surprise me if by the end of the day that section is completed and they'll be working on the north end. So there you have it, a view of Giga Texas from the south, the southwest, across the highway, and up to the northeast, and a lot of activity in between. I hope that you enjoyed what we were able to talk about and what we were able to see. And as always, I do appreciate your support. It means everything to me, and it makes what I do very possible. So I hope you have a great rest of the week, and take care.